Yesterday, late in the afternoon, my birthday present arrived. This is my new tapestry loom. Now, I tried hard to use my rigid heddle loom as a tapestry loom. The one thing I liked about it, the only thing I liked about using my rigid heddle loom that way was that it had tension. You could apply tension after you put your warp strings up there for your tapestry weave. You could crank it a little bit and make it tighter. So this is one that does have tension that you can put on, and I got it from Amazon, and it is a Grebstk, Grebstk, Grebstk. Okay, so I'm going to open this up and turn the camera down, and you can see what I've got. Okay, oh my goodness. Do you know what there are none of? Directions. All right. Okay, I know these are the side rails, okay, because you have wing nuts in these slots and you move them up and down, and that's where you get your tension. So those are the two side rails. Oh, it also has a stand that sits on. So some of this is the stand. There's two of these. These are probably the top and bottom rails. We'll put the shuttles to the side. I know I don't need them. Okay, that looks like that's probably part of the stand. Don't know what those are. They don't have any holes in them. Neither do those. Okay, I'll get back to you. You may or may not get to watch me put this together if I have to watch a video while I'm doing it, okay? For those who need help assembling this particular loom, please jump to the end of this video. The last few minutes will show you the finished assemblage, and I'll go through the steps that I took to put it together, and that might really help you some too. Thanks. I got my new loom in the mail, and I'm very excited, and it's working so well. Look at that nice warp. Look at how nice and secure and separated it is at the top and at the bottom. I got a little bit of help online of how to warp it up at one site, but I don't remember where that was. I'm using this just ordinary acrylic yarn as the base. That was a twining stitch underneath there. And then these are Raya loops, which I did with that fun yarn back here with the little bumps on it. That was very fun. I might use it again. It's pretty cute. Whoop. And then I have a little metallic band with this, and that's really pretty. There's not much of it there. I do think it can show, but I may do something more with it later too. Then I had this fun hairy stuff. That was just a plain weave. This is this. Okay, so the darker stuff in there is a plain stitch, plain weave. This is 4 rows of sumac, and then this is plain weave as well. So I'm trying to do plain weave every other time, especially if I have a sumac or a Raya loop. They need to be nailed down. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, oh, and this is what I use there, and this, the fancy fur one, looks like that. It's a Lion brand. Ecru and Ebony is what it's called. Okay, I think next I'm going to do this. This looks very interesting. You can see I'm going for browns and beiges. And a little, that's all I have of that, so I want to make the most of that. I might do some little Raya loops with that. I might have just a little section flowing down here, and then a bigger section of that flowing down here, and then fill in with something else. We'll see. But I'm really enjoying this. This loom makes all the difference. It makes it so much nicer. This is great. Things are coming along nicely. Where was I? Oh, yes, I hadn't done this yet. This is that fun sparkly yarn. I used all of it. It's very slippery. And I did small Raya loops, which was almost a mistake because it's easy for those loops are not very secure. And if you pull one very hard, the one next to it gets smaller. So you have to be really careful. This is not something you'd want to use as a rug. Those royal loops would really come out, but they look so pretty. And then I looked at my roving. Well, I did some more in between plain weave to tack that down. And I forgot that I had this roving. Let me go get it. So I had 2 brown rovings. I have a little bit of this very dark chocolate brown. It's gorgeous. And then I have this. I forgot about this. Really fun stripy stuff. There's even a little bit of beige and pink in there, which is just exactly what I want in this. So I did a little bit of nice thick sumac stitch. Now I forgot, and I did it on every single string. I hope that wasn't a mistake. It seems to be maintaining its edge. On that previous tapestry weave, I'll try to put a picture of it here, had so much trouble with it, and I wonder if it was the loom, if it was my warping up, or was it the seashells that hung in there, because they're quite heavy. I wonder if they added weight. Anyway, then I did some more with this. Where's that crazy yarn? Where'd you go, crazy yarn? Well, oh, there it is. I don't know what this is. Most of this is thrift store yarn. Almost all of it is, actually. I tend to like to buy weird stuff. So this is a silvery gray with some, it's got purple in there. It's even got a little bit of beige and gray. So it goes pretty well with this. So I did some, I bulked it up, multiple. I had 2 strands. Actually, I had 4 strands going to make it nice and thick. That was plain weave. Then I did some of the dark brown roving in a sumac stitch. And now I'm doing a stitch that I saw on YouTube on the little tutorial video that they have on the Amazon page for this loom, okay? The Grebstk Tapestry Loom. And they show ladies, fast forward, it's pretty fast, doing wonderful stitches. So I'm going to call this the twist stitch because I have no idea what it is, and I'm going to try to do it with one hand. But it looks like a sumac stitch, but it's not. You make sure you have, I have multiple strands here, but there's basically this strand and this strand. And when you start on this end, you just make sure you've looped it around and make a little knot, a single knot. And then you can see how this one has passed behind. You keep the work in front, okay, but you pass it behind the string. There's no looping, it's just passing it behind. And then you take the next one and you put it behind. Then you take the next one, put it behind the next string. I mean, literally, it is that easy. It's so easy, I can film it and do it with one hand. And it really looks nice and tidy. What I like about this is it uses up so much yarn in your yarn stash. All of a sudden, you're using up yarns you've had sitting around for years. And they look beautiful because you're doing them in these cool stitches. And, yeah, this is just great. And you can, I mean, this doesn't look like much of a yarn on its own. I mean, but it's got wonderful colors in there. But it just kind of looks like a brown. But when you make 4 lengths of it here and 4 here, it bulks it up into a bulky yarn and adds to the complexity. I wish... there you go. It still just looks kind of brown. There's speckles of white and kind of a cranberry red in there. I think there might even be a teeny bit of green. It's a kind of a complex yarn. I might have to get back to the thrift store and look for more. Although you see what I've got here that I'm working with, and that all came out of this huge container of yarn. This is most of my yarn stash, but not all of it. I still have that tub over there full of various yarns, and I think all 3 of those drawers over there now, you can't see those drawers, there's 3 long drawers over there, they're all yarn too. I have, like, that's also got yarn in it, but it's junky yarn. I think that there's a basket way in the back, behind that basket, that also has yarn. Yeah, yarn is good at hiding. Oh, that bag up there has yarn. Oh, then there's all that fiber up there that I haven't done anything with for years. Okay, I'm going to get after this. Actually, I've got to go get ready to go somewhere, but I'm having so much fun. Well, I'm about done with my tapestry weave. I've finished with the weaving section. Now it's just all the tying off and fixing and taking it off the loom. And I wanted to show you what I've done. I think I've shown you, I know I showed you the roving. Here's this nice bumpy yarn. This is that weird, it's just acrylic commercial yarn. They try to make it so that it looks like it's a thin and thick, like it's got, like it's been spun, that has thick sections and thin sections. And then some of that, some brown. This is the wavy part in here. And then I wanted to really secure it down with some plain weave, so I did some more of this. I really like this here. There's a little bit of it tucked here. I love the ribbon effect. And this is with some very fat gold ribbon. I mean, it's really wide, as you see here. Look how wide it is. So I scrunched it down. It was stiff to work with. I didn't cut it quite long enough, so you can still kind of see some of the warp yarns in there. And I'm working at this point in securing it better. I just want to make sure that it doesn't slip back through the warp yarns. So I'm running a thread with a needle. Okay, I'm basically sewing my weave. I've got a little needle here. And I started on this end. I tacked down the folded edge, came up, and I'm running this line of thread up through each ribbon bubble and straight across. See that? Straight across every warp yarn, kind of anchoring this ribbon in place. Because even if some of the warp yarns do show, what I really don't want is for this to slip out. Okay, so every once in a while I give it a good tug, make sure it's nice and tight. See, I got a little bit of I got some thread in there that's not behaving. Anyway, then I used some of this. I love this stuff. This was fun. This is a plain weave, I believe. Then I did just one row of rya loops, little rya loops, again with this same yarn, and then some plain weave with it, and some plain weave with that metallic. I did it down here too. I guess maybe I should have used it. It's a little bit of brown in there. A little bit of brown up there, and then I finished with some white in that twisted stitch. That's doubled over. It's pretty thick. I just went down once. Let me see, did I go 3 times? 3 times maybe. That's about as high as I want to go. I'll be knotting this off, cutting it, knotting it, and leaving my ends so I can put it onto a dowel. I realized, like a dimwit, that the dowel, the extra dowel that came with it, of course, is to have a dowel that's the width of this for your first weave. I don't need all of it, so maybe I'll get my husband to cut it off. But I'm pleased with this. I can't wait to see how it behaves when I take it off. Is it going to hang straight? Is it going to cave out, cave in? When you take it off the tension, how's it going to behave? That's the real part of tapestry weave that I need to figure out. So we'll see how this one does. Okay, well, thanks for joining me for this. I think it looks pretty cool. I'm learning, but I like how it looks. Well, I'm about to take this weave off of the loom, and one lovely aspect of this loom are these rails for tension at the top up there and the bottom down here. What I've done is I've loosened these wing nuts, which allowed me to turn this bottom bar. It used to be like this, creating tension. I turn it this way a little bit and rotate it, and now the tension is off, and I can slip the bottom of the warp strings off and snip that with scissors. I can snip all of these with scissors, and then these warp strings will be as long as possible. Now on this one, I've got plenty of length, but there are times when you do a weave and you need every little bit of length. I think that happened to me before with my other loom, and I just barely had enough. I'll be able to do overhand knots with these, but that just makes it so easy. And so I'm going to tie these up way at the top and secure the weave at the bottom by using nice strong overhand knots with these warp strings. Isn't that fun? So easy. Now that the bottom of the weave is entirely loose and off the loom, it's quite easy to lift the top off as well. And after I get all this off and I lay this down, I'm doing it with one hand, as you see, then I'll show you again how I'm going to put it on, this time, a stick of willow. So here's my willow branch. I decided on willow instead of grapevine this time because the willow is easier to get to. It does tend to have these little nubby things on there. I think that'll make a difference. It's nice and straight. So I think this, actually I may use willow from now on. They're both equally durable. Now I have 12 loops along here, and then I have one single. Now what she does is she takes, in this case, since I've got 12, I'll do pairs, 6 pairs of loops. And she lays one loop on top of another, and she opens them up like this, and she turns it over. This is a little like playing cat's cradle. Maybe I said that last time. And then she turns it over again and makes a little knot and sticks this in here. Now I think I'm going to have a lot of leftover. I think I've got too much, but we'll see what it looks like at the end. I feel like I should have knots here at the top, don't you? Like a nice little square knot to secure the top of this instead of it looking like that. Yeah, I'm not happy with that. I may do a square knot and see what I think. If each one were in a square knot, I could still do the loops, right? Because there's plenty of room. Okay, I'm going to do the square knots and then I'll come back. Now forgive me for saying square knot. I meant an overhand knot. Okay, so now I've got a nice long line of secure knots on the, it really is on the back of the weave. That makes me feel better. When a weave is knotted on one end and the other, I feel so much better. Okay, now we're going to try inserting our willow rod. For some reason, I like the idea of using a little tree branch better than using a wooden dowel from the hardware store. I just do. There's nothing wrong with a dowel, and I would use it if that's all I had for sure. But the fact of the matter is that we have plenty of wood on our farm, all kinds of wood, but we have tons of grapevine, tons of willow. Okay, so here's the next two. Again, you stack one on top of another. I kind of like that little X-y look there that it's making. And flip it over once, and flip it over again. That kind of knots it securely. And then you still, make sure you keep your finger in there. You don't want to lose those loops, although you could always redo it. Now after I get done with this, then I'm going to straighten all the strings up. I have to put the stick underneath the camera stand, because this is a bumpier stick, although I think a dowel would also catch the string as well. Okay, next two, and then we'll be halfway done. I must admit, the weaving is, of course, my favorite part. My least favorite part, no surprise, is tucking in all the ends afterward. Ugh, hate that part. If I had a weaving assistant, that's what she would do. Okay, slip that in. I love that there's plenty of space in these loops. I hope that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. I think it'll also keep this piece of willow a little bit of a distance away from the weave when we finish up. And that's probably a good thing. It's nice to have a little space at the top between the top of your weave and your hanging bar. I wonder what kind of a hanger I should put on it. Should I put some fun yarn this time? So you're going to move these down as you go. Last two. Okay, so here's, stack them, flip them again. The other end of this willow branch was scruffier and scratchier. It didn't cut as well for some reason with the very same loppers, so I'm kind of glad I'm leading with this end. It is slightly better. It's also pretty uniform in length. It doesn't taper. That's good. Okay, last one. This really is a very easy way. I didn't remember this. I think this is exactly how I did it on my first weave. I don't know that I did on the second weave. I think maybe I didn't have enough string. I'm so thankful for that new loom. I really think it makes such a difference. Okay, now we're going to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle down. Get our bar. Okay, so again, this is upside down. I think I've decided that I don't want one random string tied up here around the top. So I'm going to take this string, and on the back, I'm going to knot it to this last warp knot underneath, okay, closer to the work, and then I'll weave it into the work. And then I'll snip these off the bottom, and then I think we're done just about. We are snipping the last warp strings off at the bottom. Below the loops, I'd say 1/4 to 1/2 inch. They're not going to show because there are rye loops at the bottom. I do think it's important to have rye loops or long fringe or something. You got to have something down there to obscure the... Oh, I missed these down here. How did I do that? Okay. Wow. There it is. There's the latest tapestry weave. I'm pretty pleased with that. I might fiddle with these strings up here just a little bit more. They're still not all laying exactly straight. And I need to pull these knots a little tighter on some of them. Nice and sturdy, nice and secure. The ribbon ended up, I think, doing really well. Yeah, I think we could use a nice piece of ribbon or something a little blingy at the top to contrast with the cotton twine. Oh, I like it a lot. Oh, okay. Now, will you look at that and look how it doesn't really bulge on the sides and it didn't sink in. Oh, I've got an extra string here. Didn't get those tucked in. It does just right. This little bulge here was my error. That was a loop that I didn't get pulled tight enough, and by the time I realized it, it was kind of too late. I could probably go in there and figure out where. Maybe I'll do that very gently. Okay, a couple little fixes, but otherwise, I think she's done. Thanks for watching. All right, we have assembled my Grebstk Tapestry Loom. As you can see, it's a good size. Goodness, I think I'm going to have to stand up to use this. This little part of the video is for those who have ordered this loom and have wondered how in the world to assemble it. I did find directions. They were marginally helpful. They do give you a numbered list of all of the parts, and they give you photographs generally showing how it's assembled, and they have a couple of close-up photographs supposedly showing you kind of exactly how the screws are supposed to be used. But I thought I would give a few more details. First of all, I have 2 extra wing nuts that I have no use for, and this piece, this dowel, I have no idea what it's for. It could be a pickup stick for weaving, but it's kind of a strange pickup stick, so I don't know. But now I have a spare short dowel. There's also 2 shuttles that you'll use when you're weaving, and I'm assuming that this is some kind of a heddle. It doesn't have any drill holes in it to make it an attached permanent part of the loom. So, but I'm not planning on doing the kind of weaving that would use those, so I've put those to the side. Okay, so the first thing I did was took this piece and I put this, there's a ridge right there. I'm assuming that should go on the top so that the warp strings can go around and sit in there. So I put that one on the top and the corresponding one I put on the bottom with its ridge on the bottom. And I attached those two to the 2 side rails first. And you can recognize the side rails because they have these full grooves on the side. This is where the tension is created by moving this top beam up and down. Okay, so put these in first, and you can see I've got the wing nut on the outside and the washer on the inside. Same down here. Now you're attaching this in the groove, not in either one of these two holes. That's very difficult to see on, and of course this is at the top of the groove. So you do that on both sides, okay? And that gives you a nice frame to work with. Then comes something I got my husband to help me with because it was just needed a little more strength, is this bar here. Okay, you see the shape of it, and this bar here. And you're going to use the silver screws for that. And you're going to put those into the holes that have a deep recess. That one right there that's almost covered up by this, this brace for the stand. Okay, so the silver screws go in there, and that's the one that you need the hex wrench for. Okay, and I did the first one, and man, I was just cranking away at it. I was afraid I was going to crack the wood, but it didn't. I do think this is a sturdy loom, and so I got him to do the side over here. So there's the silver in there, and then also, well, here you'll be able to see that recessed screw with the hex end. That's what you need that tool for. And crank those all the way in so that the screws are recessed into there. Now what this hole is for, I don't know. There's nothing to go in that hole. Could I occasionally put this in there? I guess. Then why do I have the slot? I don't know. I wonder if there's some kind of a cross bracing that's supposed to go from the base here to there, but there's no pieces to do that. But there are holes here and here. So once you get these two in, you've got your 4, boom, 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 boom. And then you just need your stands, your legs for your stands. Yeah, shouldn't there be something from here to here, or from here to these little holes? I couldn't tell you. I could put some yarn in there. That would actually work. That would be a nice brace from that hole to that hole. And then when I push the legs back, it would be taut and it would hold it in place, because I really don't want this moving on me when I'm in the middle of weaving. Okay, so I'm not going to do weaves that are that huge, so I'll probably pull this top beam down to its lowest position here and start a first weave and see what I think about this. I'm excited. I do think it's a nice sturdy loom, but I do think you need a little bit of help. If you're good at putting stuff together and you have the pictures and you think about it nice and hard and you've had your morning coffee and a good nap, you can probably do it alone. But that's why I decided I would help a little bit. All right, good luck, folks.